Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to have you back on my channel. In the previous episode, our story came to a close with a significant turning point, when Tusan had to face the shock of losing the money she had carefully saved over a long period of time. It wasn't just a number, but her sweat, her effort, the days of saving little by little, an entire journey she had silently carried out without wanting anyone else to worry. That amount of money had always been kept by Tusan as a form of security, a preparation for the future where she hoped to build a more stable life for herself and her child. But in just a single moment, everything slipped out of her hands so quickly that she couldn't react, nor could she hold on to it. Those first moments after realizing the truth were filled with a mix of emotions that anyone in that situation would struggle to control. Confusion, regret, and a deep sense of helplessness all piled up, making it almost impossible for her to stand firm. And yet, after everything, she still chose not to let herself fall for too long. Because, more than anyone, Tusan understood that if she stopped, if she gave up, it wouldn't just be the money that was lost, but everything she had been trying to build would slowly disappear as well. And so, little by little, she reminded herself to be stronger, to keep moving forward, even if the road ahead might be filled with even more challenges. In the days that followed, everything gradually returned to its usual rhythm, slowly, but enough for one to feel stability taking shape again. No more moments of panic, no more tangled thoughts like before. Tusan began to regain her composure, continuing her work, continuing her life, as a way to keep herself from being pulled back into the negativity of what had happened. It seemed as though the storm had temporarily settled. It seemed as though everything would gradually stabilize over time. But somewhere else, in a place Tusan had no awareness of, a completely different development was quietly beginning. The wife of Mr. Trung, a woman who had always been sensitive to even the smallest changes in her husband's life, began to notice unusual signs. They were not obvious, not something easily recognized, but small details, faint traces, just enough to make her feel that something was happening behind the scenes. No confrontation, no questions, no sign of suspicion. She chose silence. A silence full of calculation. Because to her, sometimes the less you speak, the more clearly you can see everything. And then, from what seemed like casual observations, she began to trace every clue, every connection, every small piece of information others might overlook. No rush, no haste. Everything was gathered carefully, as if she were assembling scattered pieces into a complete picture. The name Hai began to appear in her thoughts. Then Mrs. Thoa. People who seemed unrelated, yet shared connections that, with just a bit of attention, revealed something unusual. She didn't need to fully understand the past between them, didn't need to determine right or wrong, didn't care who was responsible. The only thing she cared about was the position she held, a position she had spent a great deal of time and effort to secure. And she understood better than anyone that just one small mistake, just one untimely appearance, everything she had could be threatened. That was why, instead of waiting for things to unfold, she chose to act, to investigate, to take control, and, if necessary, to eliminate what she considered dangerous. Every clue, no matter how small, was not ignored. Every piece of information, even if unclear, was kept for comparison. The more she searched, the more she realized nothing was as simple as she once thought. Connections that seemed buried were beginning to surface. Stories that seemed long over showed signs of returning. And that was what made it impossible for her to stand still. A sense of unease slowly crept in, not fully defined, but enough to push her into action. No longer a fleeting suspicion, but a real concern. While Tusan was still trying to stabilize her life, while Hai and Mrs. Thoa had yet to realize anything was happening, on the other side, a plan was quietly taking shape. Not loud, not obvious, but filled with unpredictable calculations, like an undercurrent, invisible on the surface, but silently gathering strength beneath, waiting for the right moment to rise. And this time, perhaps, things would no longer be as simple as before. At the same time, while silent developments are gradually taking shape on the other side, the story begins to unfold in a different direction, a different perspective, where events are also quietly happening, yet no less heavy.
Trang,
The younger sister of Tusan's ex-husband, someone who had always tried to keep her life on a steady path, suddenly finds herself in a situation she wasn't mentally prepared to face. The upheaval came without warning, and what it left behind was a void that is not easily filled. Trang's family is facing a serious financial shock when her mother, trusting what seemed to be a credible investment opportunity, decided to put all the money she had saved over many years into it. More than 150 million VND. It's not just a number. It represents years of hard work, of saving little by little, of careful budgeting, of weighing every expense, of a long process full of patience. And yet, in such a short time, everything vanished. No clear trace left behind, no chance of getting it back, only shock and a sense of emptiness that's hard to put into words. For Trang's mother, it's not just about losing money, it's about losing a part of the trust she once placed in promises, a feeling of self-blame, a torment from realizing that her decision led to such heavy consequences. And for Trang, standing in front of this situation, she has no choice but to take responsibility. There's no time to complain, nor can she allow herself to sink into negative emotions for too long, because reality demands clarity. Yet that very clarity makes her feel even more strongly the weight pressing on her shoulders. In the days that follow, everything seems heavier than ever. The atmosphere in the family is no longer the same. No more relaxed conversations. No more simple, peaceful moments. Instead, there is prolonged silence, worried glances, and thoughts that each person keeps to themselves.
Trang,
Once had her own plans, mapped out directions for her work, hoped to expand to grow further. But now, everything has to stop. Not because she no longer wants to, but because circumstances won't allow it. The financial burden appeared suddenly, without warning, with no time to prepare, turning all her previous plans into something distant. As each day passes, the only thing Trang can think about is no longer growth or progress, but how to hold on, how to keep things from getting worse. She begins to reconsider every expense, every small plan, even decisions that once seemed insignificant, because at this moment, any mistake could make things spiral out of control. The exhaustion doesn't come only from work, but also from psychological pressure, from carrying responsibilities she never thought she would have to face so soon. There are moments when she wants to stop, to find a quiet space to think, but reality doesn't allow it. Because even slowing down for a moment, she can clearly feel everything slipping out of her hands. And so,
Trang con tin,
keeps trying, keeps facing it all, even knowing that the road ahead will not be easy. In two different places, two stories, two circumstances are unfolding at the same time. There is no clear intersection, no direct connection. Yet they share one thing, the challenges each person must overcome on their own. Tusan is trying to stand up after loss, to find balance in her life again. Meanwhile,
Trang
is struggling to hold on to what remains. Amid financial pressure and family responsibility, no one is the same, no one can replace another, and no one can carry the burden for someone else. Each person is walking their own path, facing their own problems, and forced to find their own way through. Stories that seem separate, yet reflect the same reality, that in life, there will always be moments when a person must face challenges alone. There are no shortcuts, no way to avoid it, only a choice to keep moving forward or to stop. And perhaps what keeps them standing until now is not that things are easy, but that they refuse to give up. The hardships are still there, the struggles have not passed, and everything seems to have only just begun. And then, when the stories seem to be flowing in their own separate directions, when each character was still quietly facing their own struggles, the course of everything once again returned to Tusan, like an unexpected point of convergence. Something surprising happened at a time when she herself no longer held much hope. The money, the amount she once believed she would never be able to recover, the amount she had been forced to accept as a permanent loss, suddenly returned. There had been no warning, no sign beforehand, just what seemed like an ordinary meeting, when a strange woman came to see her, bringing with her something Tusan never thought she would see again. The woman, calm in her demeanor, unhurried, unassuming, simply said that she had accidentally found the money and wanted to return it to its rightful owner. There were no long explanations, no complicated details, just a simple act, yet enough to completely change the emotions of the person in front of her. The moment Tusan held the money in her hands again, time seemed to slow down. She looked at it, as if trying to confirm that this was not a mistake, nor a fleeting dream. What she had once lost now existed clearly, right before her eyes. Her gaze no longer carried exhaustion, no longer filled with the layered worries from before, but instead, a sense of disbelief, mixed with a quiet, indescribable joy. That joy was not loud, not overwhelming, but it spread, little by little, through every thought, every feeling. Relief gradually followed, like a weight finally lifted, like a pressure that had silently lingered for days, at last released. And then, amid all those emotions, something else quietly appeared. Gratitude. Gratitude that what once seemed lost could return. Gratitude that goodness still exists even in difficult circumstances. Gratitude that life, despite its harshness, still leaves behind moments of light, enough for a person to keep believing. Tusan could not hold back her emotions, not out of weakness, but as a natural response of someone who had just gone through a heavy period and suddenly received something she no longer dared to hope for. But behind everything that was happening, behind what seemed like a coincidence, was a truth not everyone knew.
Hai,
Was still there, but not in a place easily seen. He chose to stay in the background, not appearing, not directly intervening, leaving behind no trace that could reveal his involvement. For him, the return of the money to Tusan did not need to be associated with his name. It did not need recognition, did not need acknowledgement, because what mattered to him was not credit nor gratitude, but simply seeing Tusan able to continue, to keep standing strong, to maintain her composure, and to keep moving forward on the path she had chosen. Help, given in silence, sometimes is the hardest to notice, but precisely because of that, it becomes something special, not loud, not showy, yet powerful enough to create a meaningful change. The story, at this point, seems to close a small chapter. A crisis happened, a loss that once seemed irreparable, and then an unexpected outcome appeared. But ahead, there are still many uncertainties. Questions remain unanswered. Will Mr. Trung's wife Continue following the traces she has gathered and uncover the truth about Hai and Mrs. Thoa. Will the silent schemes come to an end or be pushed even further? What form will the next storms take?
And who will they affect?
As for Tusan, after just finding a piece of peace again, can she hold on to it while everything around her continues to shift quietly? Or will she have to face new challenges before she has even fully stabilized? Everything still lies ahead. If this story has given you something, even just a little, don't forget to like, drop a heart, and subscribe to the channel to keep following along. Leave a comment below, share your thoughts, and try to guess what might happen next. And don't forget, there are still more journeys ahead, more stories yet to be told, more things waiting to unfold. See you again in the next episode.
Xin chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người câu chuyện của Tiểu San và Hải nha mọi người. Thì thực ra thì Tiểu San và Hải trong tập này cũng chỉ là một phần của câu chuyện thôi. Mở đầu video thì chúng ta đến với một hướng chuyện khác. Khi mà vợ ông Trung đã gặp trực tiếp thám tử, bà này đã đưa ra cho một thám tử một số tiền lớn để có thể giống như là báo cáo lại tình hình của hai mẹ con Hải và mẹ là bà Thoa cho bà ta, để bà ta có thể theo dõi tình hình, ngăn chặn cái trường hợp là ông Trung sẽ nhận lại Hải là con ruột và ảnh hưởng đến việc chia tài sản. Và bà ta đang lên một kế hoạch rất là kinh khủng. Tiếp theo thì chúng ta đến với một tuyến chuyện song song khác, khi mà Trang, người em gái chồng trước kia của Tiểu San, thì mẹ chồng cũ của Tiểu San, tức là mẹ của Trang, đang vướng phải một cái vụ lừa đảo mất một số tiền rất lớn. Còn quay lại với Tiểu San thì mọi người cũng đã biết Hải đã thuê một người và bỏ ra số tiền mà Tiểu San đã mất để người này có thể đóng vai người nhặt được để trả lại cho Tiểu San, để cô có thể vượt qua nỗi buồn hiện tại. Vậy thì diễn biến tiếp theo đấy là sao? Hãy đón xem những tập tiếp theo ở trên kênh của mình nhé. Tạm biệt mọi người và hẹn gặp lại. Đừng quên đăng ký kênh và để đón xem những video tiếp theo nhé.